Welcome to Custom Made in New York podcast, reminding women of their worth 1 week at a time. This show is dedicated to all women, custom made especially to win. I'm your host, Raven Joseph. Hi everyone, so good to be back. I do apologize for not uploading last week. Last week was just, a lot was going on, and it's not that I didn't have the time, it was just I wasn't prepared enough to share out. But as we know, we're all facing so much right now, especially what's been happening in the last couple of days. I remember last week I went into BJ's because my dad asked me to pick up water, which is a regular thing that I do. Is I go to BJ's and stock up on water for my dad because he likes to drink bottled water. And like thinking nothing of it when I arrived there, I saw that the lines were like so long and there was no water, and they were bringing out water on the pallets, and they asked people to like come and get them, and they were limiting it to 2. And that's when I feel like fear set in, the panic of everyone like rushing to get water. And I'm just like, what is going on? I understand like that the coronavirus is in New York City, but at the same time, I didn't know this is how bad it was. And even today when I left work, I had a poster that I spoke to my advisory about, and we just talked about, we did a circle around coronavirus when it hadn't even hit America yet. So we're just talking about it, and I looked at one of the words on the paper that one of my students shared out, like, what do you feel when you hear about this? And someone said, unbothered. And it's just like, when things are happening on the other side of the world, probably like most of the time, we don't care about it until it's knocking at our door. And so like when I was in BJ's, I was panicking. I stayed online for 2 hours just to get water. I went in there for water and ended up getting a whole lot more than just water. And I was standing online, I remember, and I remember this lady coughed, or she sneezed, or she did something. And like when I say my heart stopped, my heart stopped. Like, she's like, I don't have the coronavirus. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, as soon as you get home, Raven, go take a shower. Like, that's how scared I was. But that panic set off, and even more so when I started to look more into what the coronavirus was and what it looked like and what the symptoms were. I panicked more because I started to see like online, especially on social media, conspiracies and things like that, and like how even people who do not have symptoms can spread it. And I'm thinking my dad and his birthday was last week too. That was another reason I was kind of busy with that. It was his birthday, so we celebrated. He turned 83. So knowing that he's elderly, I'm still at work. I don't want to come home and bring anything home because I do hang out with my dad sometimes after work. So now I have to keep my distance from him. And so I'm like reading these things online, panicking. I'm like, how do people know they have it if there's no symptoms? Do I have it? Like, I know I've been using hand sanitizer and I've been spraying down, but in the beginning, my school wasn't as proactive. And if there's one person and they're saying they only one person that tested in New Rochelle that had it at the time, like, who's to say that more people don't have it because they're not being tested because they don't have symptoms? So all of these things were coming through my head. And I was getting a lot of misinformation. Like one of my girlfriends from college, she emailed me. No, she hit me up on Facebook, and there was these different facts about the coronavirus, and it said like on the different fact sheets, it said from UNICEF, and I thanked her for it, but I was like, you know what, I need to stop. And I looked on the UNICEF website, and it specifically said, we know that this is going on. And they repeated the same facts that she had sent me in those cards. it was the same thing that UNICEF was saying they never shared. So in my head, I'm like, all this misinformation is going out about this, like, and it's causing me to panic. If I'm going to live in fear, this is not life. So I had to check myself real quick. I mean, not even real quick, because it was a few days of me like overthinking and like stressing myself out. But like when you stress too much, it weakens your immune system, and you don't want that, right? If you're supposed to fight anything off, God forbid you get anything, like, that's not going to help. So I started talking to like people in my circle. I spoke to my sister and like just reminded ourselves of who's in charge at the end of the day. And like that kind of got me back to being grounded and not living in fear. And I even realized when I was talking to my dad the other day, he was like, oh, I went to put out the trash. And I'm like, you're supposed to stay inside. Like, that was my immediate, and I already know how my dad is. So me putting my panic on him, I felt so bad, so bad. And I think we're doing that to each other. Like, I'm seeing my friends. I know we care about each other. I know we want to see each other be safe, and we don't want anything to happen to one another. But like, we can't push our fear on other people. Like, my friends are like, oh, make sure you stock up. And it's just like, again, this is why people are hoarding, and you see the outcome of that. There's not enough food for everybody. And like, when we go to the grocery store, I'm like, there's certain things that I want, they don't have. And I had to like reevaluate that, because this is going to take us a long time to go away. And so living with that anxiety every single day is not realistic, right? So I had to change my mindset. And I started with just talking to people about how I was feeling. So I wasn't keeping it to myself. I reached out to my family. My sister, we talked about it. We prayed about it. I also started to look at more reliable resources. Definitely not trusting social media with their damn conspiracy stories that like have my mind doing circles. Because at the end of the day, let's say these stories that they're saying are happening in this world, and the reason why the coronavirus exists and all these things. What if it's true, right? What am I going to do with fear? How is fear going to help me solve any problems in my life right now? So one of the things I had to do too was for a couple of days turn off social media completely, because I needed to just regroup and just stop, like just be still. Like, all of these changes are happening with my school. I'm a teacher, so our school is shut down. We've been going in every day to plan for our students. And like, I hear the panic in everyone's voices, and it's so relatable because I was experiencing it too. But fear and panic is just not going to solve it. Like, we have to stop, chill out, and take control of what we can take control of. And so that's what I've been doing, like just trying to stay away from the conversations that are not directed towards solutions, and like trying to figure out, because I'm horrible with change. Like, I love habits. I love being comfortable. So this is really pulling me out of my comfort zone. And it's okay, because this is life, right? Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I say that to say that I encourage you all, if you do have to stay home during this time, I know that a lot of people are losing their jobs, and that just like breaks my heart. But maybe this is happening for a reason, and like, I just encourage you all who are home to possibly learn a new skill. If you have access to the internet, I know Spectrum and a couple of other, I think Optimum, they're giving out free Wi-Fi in New York City. I don't know about other states, but I'm pretty sure that companies are willing to help the community. Take the time to build a new skill. Look for online courses that you can get certifications in. Times are really changing. Like, randomly today when I came from work, I was watching Netflix about, I don't even know what it was called. I just pressed play, but it was talking about students who are in jail, and kids who are in jail and they're getting their degrees. And like, they were doing stuff like social studies. I mean, I was a social studies major, right? I was a history major and all that stuff. But times are changing. Things are more technology. Like, technology is really big. It's a 21st century skill. Like, even now, our whole learning process, teaching process is online. So taking the time to find free resources to better your skills and practice. Don't just sit and sulk on the couch if you're not going to be employed, or, if it's a possibility. Just build your resume as much as you can. Practice. If you need to edit your resume because you have to look for a new job, then do that. But don't feel discouraged, because there are going to be better things for you. So just take that time to relax, take that time to be still, take this time to hang out more with your family. And I would say too, like, I thought it was kind of funny because this is what it was for my siblings and myself growing up. Like, we used to eat everything in the house when we were home. So my mom, like, would have us on a set schedule. Like, she would give us snacks at a set time, and she would give us our breakfast, lunch, and dinner at a set time, so that we're not eating everything in the house, right? So I know I've seen a lot of things, and heard a lot of people saying like, oh, the groceries are gone on day 2 of quarantine, right? But if there's some structure to what you're doing, because kids do well with structure, a lot of them do, right? So just being able to give them, their meals at a set time will alleviate some stress. And also just take that time. Like Saturday, I know my family and we had a game night, and it was just a whole bunch of fun, just being with each other, and just not thinking of the worst, but just thinking of the best and enjoying each other's company. So for those of you who are struggling still, like, with what's going on, or you need help coping, you can look into seeing a therapist. Most of our insurances, if you do have insurance, will cover you being able to see a therapist virtually online. And also turn off your social media for a few days. Like, turn off the news for a few days and just be present. Because I know, like, filling our minds with all of this, although it's important to know what's going on, what changes are being made, especially if you're inside, just turn it off. Turn it all off. And for me and for my fellow Christians, like, pray. Keep praying. Just pray for guidance, pray for protection, pray for courage, and, God to continue to bless you and keep you safe, and your family. And also ask yourself why. What are you most afraid of? And this goes back to one of my previous episodes where I talk about, like, writing stuff down that makes us afraid, and, like, thinking of the worst case scenario, and, like, trying to understand why you feel the way you do, changing your thoughts, thinking positive. When you start to worry, remind yourself that worrying is not the answer, and it's not going to get you very far. So just reach out to someone and do your best to be positive. I know that's a lot, like, especially if you're someone like me that worries all the time. Like, it's hard, but you have to, in this time, you have to keep yourself healthy. And one of those things that's important for you to do that is to make sure that your mind is positive. And remember that fear is contagious, and fear often makes us feel like something is worse than what it really is. So I just wanted to come on here and just share, this message, and just encourage you all to do your best, and just to trust in God and have faith. So I am going to post next week. I would love to hear from you. You can hit me up on my Instagram page, Custom Made in New York. You can email me, custommadeinnewyork@gmail.com. Let me know what you're doing to cope with this situation. Speak to you next week. Thank you for listening.